In early 2023, an agreement was signed between Rosatom and Bolivian state-owned company ELBA to jointly implement a lithium mining project in the province of Potosí at the Pastos Grande deposit, one of the largest, if not the largest, in the world. Bolivia has the largest proven reserves of lithium on the planet at 21 million tons, or 1/5 of the world's proven reserves. The U.S. Geological Survey, for example, estimates proven lithium reserves in Bolivia at 21 million tons. Meanwhile, Bolivia's production is modest at about 540 tons of lithium carbonate per year. By comparison, neighboring Chile produces 208,000 tons per year, and production is increasing every year. Lithium mining is associated with strong environmental impacts. This is not only the associated pollution of the area, but also the consumption of water resources. For example, to extract a ton of lithium carbonate, you have to use 180 to 200 tons of water, effectively evaporating it irretrievably. The final stage of lithium ore production is chemical beneficiation, the waste after which is not disposed of, but is dumped immediately on site into waste streams. Today, the largest lithium mining operations are in the countries of the so-called lithium triangle. The average production period for 1 ton of lithium carbonate is estimated to be 1 year. Here is a photo of a correspondent talking about lithium mining in Argentina. The wastewater discharge can be seen in the background. The method of extracting lithium from ore is much cleaner and takes less than a month to produce a ton of lithium carbonate or lithium dioxide, but is more expensive. All in all, lithium mining is literally a dirty business. Until recently, there were no environmentally acceptable technologies for lithium extraction from brines. The associated contamination of lithium mining areas is critical. Therefore, despite the large lithium deposits in Germany, estimated at 3 million tons, the Germans are in no hurry to mine it. Serbia, which has impressive reserves of 1 million tons of lithium, has abandoned plans to develop a lithium mine jointly with the Australian-British concern Rio Tinto, despite the company's willingness to invest almost $2.5 billion in mining. Here are the environmental protests that have done their job. They were really appropriate here. Few people would agree to sacrifice local ecology, even for the sake of extracting valuable raw materials. In practice, this is the prerogative of the so-called third countries, where Western companies do not care about local environmental problems and their consequences for the ecology of the region. While Germany and France are experimenting with technology to reduce environmental damage from lithium mining, there is a growing need for large-scale lithium development and mining projects in the EU. Therefore, lithium will still have to be mined. But where? Portugal. This country has fallen into, shall we say, the role of EU lithium supplier. Until environmentally acceptable lithium mining technologies become available in other countries. In general, Portugal was made to take the blame for everyone, and no protests of environmentalists and citizens' outrage brought no results. The decision to start lithium mining was made without public approval. Well, that's the EU and democracy in a nutshell. Canada, with nearly 3 million tons in its own reserves, has not actually produced itself at all until 2021. And in 2022, only about 500 tons of lithium carbonate were mined. The Canadians' focus shifts back and forth to Russia and the lithium triangle. That's where the Canadians decided to go wild. In fact, just after the production of the first 500 tons of lithium, the Canadian government ordered 3 Chinese companies to stop investing in lithium mining, citing a threat to national security. A Commerce Department spokesperson was responding to reporters' questions about Canada's request for 3 Chinese companies to withdraw their mining investments in Canada. The Chinese see it as a politicized move. Bolivia, after closely watching local Chilean and Argentine environmentalists give the world a big hello, has come to the conclusion of banning private companies from developing its own lithium reserves. Who will compensate for the huge ecological damage in case of what? Obviously not the private sector, but the state companies will not go anywhere and will fulfill their obligations under the contract. But in the context of the sanctions policy of the West, which threatens the whole world with decisive actions and secondary sanctions for cooperation with Russian companies, it is a very risky step to conclude a strategic 10-year deal on raw materials extraction with Rosatom, whose structures have begun to fall under U.S. sanctions. Here's an excerpt from a document published in the U.S. about sanctions against Rosatom, headlined, Restraining Rosatom. And no amount of persuasion and investments will not allow Bolivia to take this step, because one thing is scientific and technological cooperation and quite another is the extraction of raw materials valuable for the whole world. Here, the obvious benefit must so strongly outweigh all the attendant risks that this very risk is only a minor inconvenience. Rosatom, and more specifically its uranium mining holding uranium-1, has long been on a first-name basis with lithium, as they say. Sanctions are necessary for the nuclear industry, our nuclear power industry, closing the nuclear fuel cycle, fusion research, and maintaining and improving the strategic nuclear deterrent. So, Out of weapons technology came a unique lithium mining and processing technology that was modified to extract lithium from Latin American brines. As a result, Rosatom became the only company in the world that possesses operating, rather than experimental, environmentally acceptable technologies for efficient extraction of lithium from brines of at least 90% versus the existing 40% for the Canadians and 60% for the Americans. It is this technology that Rosatom offered Bolivia in the form of a comprehensive program of industrialization of the lithium industry based on Russian technologies with access to the global market. Bolivia could not refuse such a chance, and no threats and sanctions forced the Bolivian government to sacrifice the country's ecology for the sake of immediate profit. Multiple tests have revealed that Rosatom's solid plains technology has shown a lithium recovery rate of over 90% at a frequency of 99.5%. As a result, a firm contract for a decade to develop the Pastos Grande's deposit, where Rosatom will invest $600 million already in 2024 with a planned production capacity of 25,000 tons of lithium carbonate by 2027. It is quite astonishing that a state-owned company under sanctions, and even in the most sub-sanctioned country in the world, has obtained the rights for the long-term development of a deposit of a strategically important raw material for the whole world outside its own country. At this point, 17,854 sanctions have been imposed against Russia, which is more than have been imposed against all countries in the world combined. Environmental advantages of the Russian technology of sorption extraction of lithium 1. Does not require the use of aggressive chemical acids 2. The spent brine returned to solar after lithium extraction has a chemical composition almost similar to that of the original natural brine and does not cause damage to the ecosystem. Fresh water consumption from external groundwater sources is no more than 20% of the total water consumption of the technological process, which is achieved through water recycling and does not damage the overall water balance of solar and adjacent territories. That is, Rosatom's technology provides for the creation of a cascade of treatment facilities. But one should not be surprised by this. Today in Russia it is impossible to launch industrial or food production without water treatment facilities. Even new cottage communities are now installing stormwater treatment systems. In addition, Russia has adopted a program dated the 5th of July 2018 for the elimination of accumulated environmental damage, enshrined in the decree of the President of the Russian Federation. Given this decree, it is simply impossible to produce batteries in Russia without ensuring their recycling or safe disposal, since battery production and lithium mining itself are extremely harmful to the ecology of the process. At the moment in Russia, used lithium-ion batteries are recycled at two enterprises, National Ecological Company, abbreviated as NEC, in Yaroslavl and Megapolis Resources in Chelyabinsk. The Krasnoyarsk chemical and metallurgical plant processes lithium-containing ore in Russia. Lithium hydroxide is produced by Halmika and the Novosibirsk chemical concentrator plant, which is part of Rosatom. All of these facilities have had water treatment plants installed since 2010. So, Russia has fully entered the lithium race, which is inextricably linked to the adopted concept for the development of production and use of electric motor transport in the Russian Federation for the period up to 2030. The program has already started to be implemented, and by 2025, the production of at least 25,000 electric cars per year should be established. At least 9,400 public charging stations across the country should appear at the same time. By 2030, 10% or 200,000 of all cars produced in the country must be electric. The number of public charging stations should be at least 72,000 units. In addition, a gigafactory for the production of lithium-ion batteries is being built in Kaliningrad, and an agreement has been signed to build a second such factory in Moscow.